Well, we're live one day before the election. The Truth Table, episode 83, is here. I'm going to have multiple guests coming on. My first guest, RB Ham, has his own podcast and is also has a Substack. What I'm going to do is I'm going to post your Give Send Go and your Substack on the stream so people can find it. And I'll do that on Facebook as well. You can find, let's see here. You can find RB on Facebook, RB Ham. It's on Facebook here. Also, he has a Substack, which I will link below the stream on Facebook and on YouTube. So you can find him and you can help him on his Give Send Go as well. I'm just looking for it right now. If you want, RB, you can just tell me a little bit about your fight against COVID tyranny, and just to give a little bit of a sample to what they will find in the story on Substack. And welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me, Paul. I'm kind of like a little bit disoriented right now because wasn't kind of used to this. I was just starting to do some trying to restream onto my Rumble channel, but I apparently can't. But I am restreaming on X right now, on my X account. This is going to be streaming on there, so that's exciting. I learned something new today. Anyway, thanks, Paul, for having me. Yeah, my name is oh geez, somebody's already texting me. Where can I find it?
Yeah, I'm gonna start adding.
Anyway, so yes, my name is Richard Brent Winteringham, or Winteringham, but the English call it Winteringham. It's a very old English name. I go by the nom de plume RB Ham, and I've been going by RB Ham for about 20 years since I started blogging back in the late 1990s. And I was quite a prolific blogger. I had a blog called Truth of Consequences. I had another blog called Beyond the Pale back then. Now that's the name of my podcast, Beyond the Pale, which you can find on Rumble or on X. And sometimes on my Facebook, I have a Facebook page. I have my normal Facebook page, and then I have another one that's for my show called Beyond the Pale, and you can find me there. And so anyway, so I've been blogging. I was blogging for quite a while, and after 9/11, I became one of those first people that was canceled because I was questioning what was going on with 9/11 quite publicly. And I got kicked off Democratic Underground, where I was a prolific blogger on that platform, because I wouldn't let it go, because there was questions that needed to be answered and people were afraid to talk. And so I started famously after 9/11, of course, they brought in the Patriot Act of the United States, and it bled over here to Canada because the Canadian government signed agreements with the American government to beef up their security and had cross-border arrangements. Basically, the CIA came in and took over CSIS. The FBI came in and took over large swaths of the RCMP. And then the military agreements that they had to cooperation basically kind of kicked our military leadership to the curb in deference to American leadership. So when all these strange things start happening like that, you start to wonder what's going on here. This is kind of the implementation of the New World Order incrementally, as we can see it now with the UN Agenda 2030 and all that stuff, of course. But anyway, so I stopped around 2005, 2006, 2007. I stopped blogging, and I lost my websites and everything over the years because I was demoralized for quite a while because I didn't think, I became apolitical for the very first time. And I'm a lifelong left-wing civil liberties guy, right? I marched against all the wars. I'm already marching against the next war. I'm an anti-war guy, and firmly believe in freedom of speech. That there are the only alternative to bad speech is more speech, right? When you try to hide things, you start censoring things. Well, things go underground and they become even more metastasized. The best thing is transparency. Sunlight is the best disinfectant, and I believe in complete absolutist free speech. So we cycle forward, and I was a truck driver for quite a while around 2018, 2017, or 2016. I got off the road and I became 2015. I became a caretaker here in Saskatoon, working at in the elementary schools. I got my boiler ticket and I became an assistant building operator. And I was working at a elementary school here in Saskatoon when the COVID thing was rolled out. And because I did my own research, which means reading, of course, right? I'd already knew what they were planning on doing, because they basically, of course, they pronounce what they're going to do quite out in the open. There was Operation Lockstep, the Rockefeller Institute in 2010, right? And then famously, of course, they also did in October of 2019, they did an operation in New York, and Event 201 it was called, where the World Health Organization, the Johns Hopkins University Health Center, and UN and the CIA and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation all got together and ran a tabletop scenario of what would happen if a coronavirus, a novel coronavirus, got out of China and swept the world. How would they respond to it? And they ran the whole tabletop scenario of how they would shut down people's ability to dissent and how they would control the narrative. And so when they rolled it out just a couple months later, I mean, it was so obvious what they were doing. First with the videos they let out of China, right? And then nothing gets out of China unless the government there wants it to get out. So when they were showing people dropping dead in the streets and they were disinfecting, I went, oh my God, this is such a scam. And they're trying to panic people. They did it with the Italy thing, and then they rolled it into New York. And I just knew that this was a massive psychological operation. And I think it's been proven right now. We're starting to find out, it's starting to be leaked out and everybody's starting to realize the truth that we were taken advantage of by our governments. And it was not just something that was done in response to the virus, but it was like done with an agenda to control us, right? They wanted to introduce vax passports and digital IDs and all that stuff as a part of it. And if you pay even the least amount of attention, you know that. So anyway, that was my story with the COVID thing. So that's why I started protesting against it. I got fired from my job for doing it. I got 8 tickets from the Saskatchewan government for $47,500 because I was breaking health rules. But they only went after organizers and speakers. They didn't go after the regular public until Maxime Bernier came here the last election and did an event downtown in Saskatoon. None of the other parties were campaigning because of the COVID restrictions. So Maxime came down here and did an event downtown here in Saskatoon, out in the open air, at the Vimy Memorial, down at the park in Kiwanis Park here in Saskatoon by the river. And the police had cameras set up and they took pictures of everybody who attended. Then they put those pictures in the paper the next day and said, and asked for help from citizens to identify these scofflaws so they can give them tickets. It was like East Germany Stasi stuff. Police taking,
I'm sure.
Yeah, it was unbelievable what was going on. And so, anyway, in the end, we had the JCCF, the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms, representing all of us here in Saskatchewan, but every one of us were found guilty anyway, because they refused to consider any countervailing evidence. Whatever public health said was sacrosanct. So any other countervailing evidence that this wasn't the pandemic they were claiming, they didn't need to override our charter rights for this so-called deadly flu. And they completely threw it all out and just said, you're all guilty because public health says so. So that's why I have that give, send, go.
So that inspired you to get into politics as well, did it not?
Well, what happened was around June of 2020, I was out there. I was protesting. We were a small group at that time, maybe 13 people, right? And I had my bullhorn right there. and I was yelling out to the crowd, your immune system is not a conspiracy theory, and trying to educate passersby on what was actually going on, how they're using COVID-19 as a fear, using the fear of it to institute control and trying to, basically bring in this whole agenda, this whole UN agenda, Sustainable Development Agenda 2030, and they were using this as a vector to do that. And I was absolutely, it was quite successful. And I met a guy named Mark Friesen here in Saskatoon, who was already a member of the PPC, and he's a right winger, and I was a left winger, but we found out we were getting along because we were both well educated in this area and understood what was going on. And we realized we had more in common than separates us. And that's what really first started me saying, hey, this isn't a left versus right thing anymore. That paradigm's done. This is what's right and what's wrong. This is good versus evil, basically. What's going on is a spiritual war almost. And I know you can appreciate that. Yeah. And so that's, I became a member of the PPC, a party I never even knew existed 2 years before, because they upheld my values of freedom of speech, anti-censorship, freedom of association, the freedom of conscience, all that stuff that I believe are left-wing civil liberty values. The only party that was upholding them was Maxime Bernier and the PPC. And then I started doing town halls and rallies, and I met Max, and I spent a lot of time with him. And at first I was very suspicious. I thought, this guy used to be a conservative cabinet member. So we had a lot of discussions, and I talked about his experiences at that time. And I was quite amazed. He has grown beyond that. He realized that he was part of that whole, that whole controlled thing. Like when you're a cabinet minister in one of these establishment parties, when you're a member of them and you're representing them as an MP, you're not allowed your own opinions. Basically, you're told how to vote, when to show up, and what to say. He was the foreign minister, and he went over to Afghanistan. He famously talked to one of the guys we were supporting, went to his mansion. And while he was talking to him, he found out that in the basement of this, where this Afghan minister and him were discussing, Canadian involvement in the Afghanistan fiasco, there was a torture chamber in this guy's basement. And so afterwards, he talked about it to the press, and he said, I don't think we should be supporting these guys. Well, he got a call from the Prime Minister's office and said, you've got to take that back, because these are the guys we're working. This warlord is who we're working with in Afghanistan, and you have to take that back because that's who we're supporting. He said, but the guy's a monster. He's torturing people in his basement. All these warlords in Afghanistan we were supporting would have been supporting we're just supporting the Taliban 2 years ago before that, right? And they just for the money we were giving them, they turned on the Taliban and worked against them. It's a whole sort of story, but he told me a whole bunch of other things, including his problems with when he left those documents in his car overnight, and he admitted that he was wrong on doing that. And he offered to resign. He even went to the Prime Minister and said, I want to resign because that was a terrible mistake. And they wouldn't let him resign. They said, you just apologize and it'll be okay. So, and he talked about all these things, and then about why he started the PPC, because of the whole dairy cartel thing. We don't need to get into it. We know how he was kind of screwed over, and they put Andrew Scheer in there instead of him. And then he tried to work with them, but they wouldn't uphold his values, and so he quit to start his own party, because he realized that the conservatives are no better or no worse than liberals, except maybe in a different form, a different shade of globalism. And how much, as you can see now, because Pierre Poilievre has come out and said he will not leave the Paris Accords. They're not talking about the gender ideology thing. They hide from all these very, very contentious issues. They don't talk about them. They're afraid because they govern by polling, and whatever their pollsters say is what they do.
No, that's true.
That's why I'm with the PPC.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. Like, we've always had the Libertarian Party, but they are dismissed, dead fish in the water. Even though they represent freedom, they can't get a seat. And I think Maxime's popularity, and he almost won the leadership. It might have been stolen from him, but he was very close to winning anyway. And I think that's where he gained popularity. Can you tell everyone about this Give, Send, Go, and just what it's for? And
okay, so I got, like I said, I got the 8 tickets for $47,500, and then 2 of them are due now. One's already been paid off because I got I had my income tax garnished. $3,500 my income tax is garnished, so the first one's paid off. So, but I still have 7 more tickets, and some come due later this year, some come due next year. And so I put out this Give Send Go for people to help support me in paying off these tickets. And I've been on different shows. I was on the Jimmy Dore show about this, and I was on New Dissidents about this, and Viva Fry about this. And I've gotten a lot of good support, but not a lot lately. First one on Jimmy Dore, I got a lot of support, but the last few times, people have, and I understand there's only so much money you can help people out with, because there's so many causes that need help. Like
yeah, that's true.
Especially
I did put a link. I put a link under the videos if anyone wants to help. The link is right there, so you can help. And also keep track of how it's doing and spread the news, because I know a lot of people, and I'm glad Jimmy Dore covered your story, because he's doing very well as well. I do like his show, and he kind of branched out from being a comedian to a podcast star.
Yeah. Well, his political story is a lot like mine. He's like me. He was a former lefty, right? Oh, there's a picture of you with Christine Anderson, who's a wonderful person. But like me, Jimmy was a former lefty. But then he realized that the COVID thing woke him up. He went and got vaccinated and got vaccine injured. That's what woke him up.
Yes,
a lot of people have to get injured first. Something bad has to happen to them before they wake up. So
Pierre Poilievre said that Christine was vile.
I know.
Now, I've met her, so I've heard her speak, and I listened to what she spoke about. It all was common sense, almost like listening to Maxime. It's all common sense. Welcome to the show, Peter. Thanks for coming the day before the election. Ooh, how you do you could get a seat.
Hello there. Hey.
I'm very excited for you, Peter, because you could get a seat. You did very well last election, so I hope you get a seat. So how are you doing? How did your campaign go, Peter?
I did the best I could. It was very hard against the Conservatives and the Liberals.
Yeah,
but you were talking to me, right, Paul?
Yes, sir. I was.
Okay, yeah. So
Peter's frozen.
Okay, no, it went well. Am I frozen right now? Is it freezing?
It's choppy.
Yeah.
So I did the best I could. It was very tough.
Hello.
Yeah. You're on.
Can everyone see me?
Hey, Jeffrey, how you doing? Peter's having some choppiness issues.
Can I come back in a sec?
Yes, come right back.
Yeah.
Welcome, Jeffrey. Oops.
Mr. Slackhammer, the greatest.
Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
You have a great last name, man. That is the greatest. Mine's pretty good at Winteringham. That's pretty good at Swackhammer. That's great.
Well, you know what's good is I can use the hammer emoji all the time.
Yeah. Sounds like you're a middle linebacker for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Well, that's right. When I was a kid, people always said it sounds like a hockey name or like a wrestler name or something like that.
Yeah. Pretty cool. So how'd your campaign going? Do you think you got a lot of interest out there, or did you run into the same thing I ran into with this vote splitting thing, and they're so just vicious about it too?
I know. Well, it's awful because it's both sides that come at you about the vote splitting. It's the Liberals and the Conservatives, and they're both just as vicious about it. They both say, you're going to make our team lose. No, you're going to make our team lose, and you're worthless. But it's a paradox because they say you're worthless and you're not going to make a difference, but you're still somehow going to cost them the election.
Yeah, I keep getting that. They keep saying the PPC is irrelevant. Well, if you're so irrelevant, why are you wasting your time coming on my feed and threatening us and saying, so you're going to guarantee Mark Carney is the next prime minister? And I said, Mark Carney and Pierre Poilievre both work for the same globalist outfits. Are you kidding me? When are you guys going to wake up? But they can't see it. Most people are NPCs, non-playing characters, and they just believe what their mainstream media tells them, and they and they have Trudeau derangement syndrome. You know, you've heard of Trump derangement syndrome. Well, Trudeau derangement syndrome was big, and it made people support the Conservatives regardless of any flaws in their policies or their platform. They just can't see beyond the fact we have to get the Liberals out there, or else we'll have total totalitarian dictatorships and all that stuff. But hey, while Trudeau was implementing all those COVID draconian mandates and lockdowns, it was the Conservatives in Parliament that supported him, and every Conservative premier in this country took the $1 billion payoff to institute those COVID mandates and restrictions in each province. They're all in on it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Should be accountability for it.
Well, that's right. And that's obviously... Oh, sorry, were you speaking, Paul?
No, I was just agreeing.
Okay. Well, that's the thing, right? Because they say Poilievre is our messiah. Poilievre's going to save Canada. And listen, I was on the Poilievre train a year and a half ago. I thought, okay, this guy seems like a straight shooter. He comes from humble beginnings. Let's see what he's got. But then you listen to him talk, and it's like, okay, so obviously the PPC thing is to pause immigration, because right now it's reckless the way we have it. Poilievre wasn't even saying that. He was saying, we need to reduce it. No, wait, we don't. Then he'll go to different events and say, we need more of you guys. We're not going to slow down immigration. We're not going to do deportations. And it's like the guy doesn't know what his base is. He doesn't know what his policies are. It's unbelievable.
Well, if you watch some of the events he goes to the ethnic events, and he panders to ethnic minorities for their vote. Because famously, these people, they come over here and they vote in high numbers and high percentages, and they vote as a bloc for their own interests. You know, and that's something us people in the freedom movement don't seem to understand, because after the mandates restrictions got lifted because of the fantastic freedom convoy that did that, and then everybody went, okay, we've gone too far, and they got rid of all the mandates restrictions, all the freedom people went back to sleep. And now half of them are supporting the Conservatives, who, if let's just say Pierre Poilievre wins, if Theresa Tam declares a new pandemic, Pierre Poilievre will be just like Justin. He'll be calling us all misogynists and right-wing wackos if we dare to fight back against it. That's my view. What do you think?
Well, no, I agree. Yeah, it's awful, and you know, I try not to speak too poorly of people, but what I really see is Poilievre and Trudeau are far more similar than either side will give them credit for. Because Trudeau, his big thing was being liked. He wanted to be accepted. He wanted the people's approval. He just wanted to be popular. Is that not the same thing Poilievre's doing right now? He's pandering to people. Like you said, he goes to different communities and he says whatever they want to hear.
Yeah.
And that's all he does. You know, he says to gun owners, we won't take away your rights. Then he goes to ethnic groups and he goes, we won't deport you. Then he goes to more right-wing groups and goes, we'll say whatever you want to hear. So to me, it's totally disingenuous, and he's just an opportunist, is the way I see it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Okay, I have to say, like Peter's lighting, everything is better. Last time you came on, like Jesus was in the
new
room.
computer. I had to run to get a new computer.
That was quick.
You're a little quiet, but I can actually adjust your mic from here, so I can bring you up. I love that, having the power. I feel like a liberal right now. So CBC is probably going to be pro-liberal since they were guaranteed a little bit of money. Was it 50 million? A little bit of a boost from Carney.
Just a little bit.
But that's very kind of him. I believe that's taxpayers' money, is it not?
Well, that's the one thing I can say that Pierre has actually stayed consistent on, and we can say he's been consistent on, is he says he will defund the CBC, and he's not backing down, which is very, very, that's one good thing, right? And it might actually hurt him. That's one thing that might actually hurt him with the liberal, the centrist liberals that he's always trying to pander to and try to be more popular with. At least he's sticking with his guns on that. So that's good. But we'll see how it goes down. But you know, we don't also have to realize it wasn't just the CBC that got all this money from the government. It was CTV and Global too. They got a lot of money too. So, you know, when somebody gives you money, don't tell me that there's not a little bit of a little payback for that.
Yeah, I'm concerned about the polls because they're showing liberals, you know, beating the conservatives, and that's absolutely impossible unless you've brainwashed the entire population, which is possible.
Well, what's happened in my district, I can tell you. Last time, the Conservatives had like 47% and won, and the Liberals had like 30%, and the NDP the NDP had 30%, and the Liberals had like 15%. This time it's reversed. A lot of NDP people are leaving the NDP and they're voting with the Liberals strategically because they're so worried that Pierre Poilievre is going to be the next Donald Trump. And then the other people on the Conservative side are just hammering on us PPCs for vote splitting because they're sure that Mark Carney is going to be the next Adolf Hitler, right? And so the emotions are high. I think you're going to see the NDP are going to be almost wiped out because Jagmeet Singh has not been anything else but a lapdog for Trudeau. Everybody can see it, and his own party members said, "Well, if you're going to be a lapdog for the Liberals, we might as well vote for them."
Yep.
But I still think that the polls, they're sponsored. People pay for the polls, and I think they poll the older generation with landlines and stuff like that. I think they're not in line with what I think it's going to be a Conservative majority, but it will be slim. And then the Conservatives will govern like Liberals for 4 years, and next election cycle will be the time for us, the PPC. And I want to welcome Robert Lucas to the live stream. Maybe we should let him speak here.
Yeah, let's let him speak for sure. Welcome, Robert.
Thank you, gentlemen. It's a pleasure being here. Had some technical difficulties getting connected, but here I am, and blessed to be here and part of this conversation. Just touching on the poll aspect, one of the things that has really bothered me is that how can the PPC have gotten our party leader participating in the debate if the PPC is not even an option on the polls? And two of the polls that I've personally received going back weeks ago did not have the PPC listed as an option, which really concerned me. It's a matter of not only has our leader and our party been ghosted and being canceled. I was actually had the pleasure of doing a podcast with our leader on Friday morning that's going across country, and it's being focused on seniors. And I was able to make the comparison that not only is our leader being ghosted and canceled, the seniors throughout the country are being canceled and ghosted as well. And I'm complete for now.
Yeah, well, I don't think we should have any amnesty. I do think we're going to get seats. And Jeffrey, how is your writing? Have you noticed a good uptick in support?
I'm sorry, come again?
Have you noticed a lot of support in your writing? Am I really
for
quiet?
PPC? It's wishy-washy because my big thing has been social media. So I'll post like energetic, like in-your-face videos, and I believe the reach is within the Guelph area, or at least KW Guelph in that region. But in person, I went to the Italian Canadian Club for an all candidates meeting, and actually we were received pretty nicely considering it was a pretty liberal crowd. We went to a Catholic high school for an all candidates meeting, and we were received nicely. But the biggest thing I see, that I'm sure all of you see as well, is signs being destroyed and vandalized.
Yeah.
Like someone gave me a nice Hitler mustache on one sign, and that was the lesser of the evils, because a lot of the time I'll put down a sign, I'll mark the location on my map, then I'll go and check it again later that day, and it's absolutely vanished. It's nowhere to be seen. So I don't know. I think it's a vocal minority, maybe a vocal majority, but it's tough to say in my region.
Well, that's that misconception that the public has of the People's Party of Canada because of the way the mainstream media covers us. They call us these right-wing extremists, which is ridiculous because if anything, I'm a left-wing extremist. I'm anti-war. That used to be a left-wing extremist idea. I'm pro.
It used
I'm
to be, yeah.
I'm pro-free speech. I'm anti-censorship. I'm pro-bodily autonomy. All those things are left-wing. Now all of a sudden I'm a right-wing Nazi because I believe in those things. Hey, Peter, how about your agent? Do you think you got a chance? We get.
So no, I mean, I think it's going to be very difficult. I've changed my strategy during this campaign because this is my second campaign as a PPC candidate, and last campaign I was definitely flying by the seat of my pants. That was the first time I ever ran in any election whatsoever, and I got 8.4% of the vote, which I was happy with. But I was just trying to do everything myself. I wasn't knocking on doors. I was just doing literature drops. This time I've changed my strategy completely. I focused on canvassing. I started canvassing about actually in July, at the end of July, and that was my big focus. So by the time the first day came, I had 300, almost 400 signs that were confirmed locations. And I did have that same issue that you spoke about, Jeffrey, that a lot of signs went missing pretty darn quickly. But that's life, I guess. And I did what I could to try to replace them. But I've really focused on door-to-door canvassing, having that one-on-one connection, having a pitch where I showed quickly what we stood for, what differentiated us from the mainstream parties. And I think it worked. I mean, it's hard to know. I mean, a lot of people were still very afraid of the Liberals winning. So they said, I love your ideas. I love your ideas. I would vote for you, but I can't take a chance that the Liberals are going to get in. So if every one of those people actually voted with their conscience and with their heart and with their principles, I'm sure I would come close. I don't know if I would win, but I would come close. But having that barrier makes it a lot harder to try to convince people to vote their conscience and vote according to their principles. And we'll see what happens tomorrow.
Peter, may I ask it? Are you St. Catherine's candidate?
I'm the candidate for Niagara South. It's a brand new riding. Yeah, brand new riding. And so there's a bit of an advantage because the current incumbent has to take on a slightly different area. So he has a disadvantage. The conservative candidate isn't a high-profile conservative candidate. So I thought I had a chance. And what? Who knows? I mean, in a David and Goliath battle, we know who won that one. So we'll see what happens tomorrow. And I think I do have a lot of support because, like I said, I had about 1,000 signs up on private property that I put up. So I had a ton of support. I know it. It's just, I don't know where those signs went. Was it the people that took them down? Did they change their minds, or did they get taken down by vandals? I'm still not sure about that, because I think sometimes what may have happened is the one person in the house, they really liked my pitch. They agreed with everything I said. But then, the husband or the wife got home and saw the sign and took it down. It may have been that too. So I can't say it was necessarily vandalism or people stealing it, but it might have been some of that too.
If I may add something, just jump in real quick. I did a lot of door-to-door canvassing because I agree with what you'd said, is that it's a great way to connect with people. It's one-on-one, you're there. All they have to give you is a few seconds of their time or a minute. I wasn't even able to have a conversation with anyone. In my region, I was met with a lot of apathy, and that's something I talk about a lot, is apathy and people not caring. But it was unbelievable. Even getting 100 signatures to get verified with Elections Canada was like pulling teeth. Took me like 2 weeks. We ended up getting enough, obviously, but it was just unbelievable. Like, these people, they talk about democracy and they talk about, like free speech and allowing voices to be heard. But at the very best, they'll say to you, like, no, I will not support you, but good luck. Good for you. I hope your journey goes well. And it's unbelievable. It's like, how can you say that? You're saying, no, get lost. Have a good day. Right?
Yeah.
That's something I ran into a lot.
Yeah, you know what? When I first started canvassing door to door, I did have a lot of that, and I realized I had to change my strategy. And I knew that I had to go door-to-door canvassing because I looked at a guy like Viva Frei, who was a PPC candidate. He had hundreds of thousands of followers on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram, and he only got around 4% of the vote because he believed that he could win it with his social media presence. You can't. You really have to go door to door. And that's what convinced me that I had to go door to door. And so I had, on one example, there was one lady who didn't even want to open the door. She said, "Don't worry, I'm voting conservative. I don't even need to talk to you at all." I just kept talking. I didn't stop. I had my pitch. I had my folder that I showed to people, and she started listening. She eventually opened the door, and we had a 3-minute conversation because my pitch took about 3 to 4 minutes. By the end of it, she said, "You know what, you can put a sign on my lawn." And so there was a lot of circumstances like that where my pitch, I was able to really tweak it. And I didn't really ask them because when you like, I was finding, "Hey, what do you think of the PPC?" You get nowhere with that. So I stopped doing that. I stopped asking them, "Hey, have you heard of the PPC?" I never even asked that because they would say no, and then the conversation's over. So I would say, "Hey, this is something that, hey, I'm from the PPC, and we believe in freedom, fairness, personal responsibility, respect." And I always open like that. And I said, "It's not the job of government to tell you what to see on what you can see on the news, what you're to inject into your body, whether or not you're allowed to own a gun. It's the job of government to protect your rights, so you can make those decisions for yourself." And then I would ask them, "Does that make sense?" And 9 times out of 10, they would say yes. And then they would open up, their defenses would go down, and I would launch into my pitch. But because if you ask an open-ended question, which I was doing at the beginning, I was having the same trouble as you, Jeffrey, and I was getting nowhere with it. So I had to basically not ask any questions, just go into it, say what we stood for in a way that was, I thought, persuasive, and a lot of people at least allowed me to continue.
Hey, Robert, how about you? Have you been going door to door, and what is the feedback you're getting?
I've done some door to door. I'm 82 years young, and with that being the case, I didn't do as much door knocking as I did back in '87 when I was a provincial candidate for the Conservative Party in Lennox Addington, just west of Kingston. But I have been dropping off pamphlets, meeting people, talking to people, going to church, to different churches on Sundays, meeting different people there, and getting feedback, getting a good feeling for the community and the concerns in the community. However, I come back to I believe that we as candidates throughout the country are significantly affected by the Leader Debate Commission having ghosted and canceled our leader for Max not to participate in the debates, and for them at the last minute to eliminate the Green Party leader. It just shows how undemocratic the whole process has been and is. And if something doesn't change, it's just simply going to get worse.
Yes. And I'm 82 years old and you're doing this. That's incredible. I mean, you look young. You don't look a day over 81.
You added a year since I talked to you just last week,
Paul. I know.
That gives me hope.
It's the election campaign. It makes you feel old.
It gives me hope. I'm 62, so I got another 20 years, 20 good years left for.
You sure do. Absolutely. And it's a matter of how we look at it. Do we look at ourselves as being 82 years young or 82 years old? If I were 82 years old, I would have been retired long ago, and my feet would be up.
I know.
Relaxing.
Yeah. So that music is my own music, and it's in 432. So it's supposed to heal you, and that's why. That's one thing I added to the show. I try to keep it really quiet, but I'm trying to heal people with the initial 432 hertz.
Okay, cool.
So that's what that is. A song I wrote called Angels and Devils. And since this is a spiritual war, it seems quite appropriate.
Yeah, it's kind of toning down my my ranting abilities. I haven't quite ranting
Okay.
as loud as I usually
okay.
do. Thank you for
I can turn it off. I can turn it
That's
off. It's
okay.
not,
No,
not
you
a
can leave it
problem.
on. No big problem. I see. I got the blue sky now happening. It's all
You
tranquility,
do? Yep.
serenity
I want
now.
you to be
Serenity
tranquil.
now. Yeah.
Yeah, I've
Well, and
already
we need
finished.
actually. That's a good thing. We could use that kind of serenity right now because I've been talking to a lot of people. Kevin Boychuk, my buddy who ran last election in Saskatoon West, and I was his campaign manager, and we got 6.2% of the vote, and we really did a lot of door knocking, and we met a lot of people, and we had huge rallies and stuff. And Maxime came to Saskatoon for 2 weeks, and we toured the province. It was banging because we had the freedom move behind us, and we got 6.2%. Now we're gonna have to take a step back because we didn't get like Saskatoon West this time. There was a guy there who didn't get his nominations in time, so we lost that, and that's like 5,000 votes. And that's happened throughout the country because we weren't quite prepared, weren't quite ready. We only got 274 seats filled, right? So we're going to actually, if people are going to have to be realistic about this, we're going to be taking a step back this election because of the vote splitting people that are just vicious. And so we're going to probably have to take a step back here. We have to be prepared for it, but we got to keep going because it's the next election cycle and the one after that where we're going to gain momentum. Because if the Conservatives do win that majority and get in there and govern like Liberals for the next 4 years, we'll be looking pretty good after that. So we got to keep the faith alive. So thank you for the serenity now.
If I may add on to that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes.
Okay. Is something I thought about today is how I think it was 2008, how that election was so unprecedented. Because I believe it was 2008 when the NDP was the official opposition to the Conservatives.
Right.
They totally blown that. That was only because of Jack Layton.
Yeah.
But it got me thinking, like, if we keep working at this, if we keep our nose to the grindstone, if we keep connecting to people, if we keep putting our voice out there, making our voices heard, our policies heard, explaining it to people, making it make sense, I think we can be in that position 100, 1000%. I believe it with all my heart.
Absolutely. There's a future for us, and we have to realize that because there's a lot of, because if we do take a step back and don't get as many votes as we did last time, a lot of people will say, oh no, and they'll be depressed. No. That's a good sign because the NDP, like you're talking about how Jack Layton had that party as the official opposition at one point. Look what happens through time. A few years later, they're almost extinct now because so things can change and you never know when it's going to happen. My buddy Sean Taylor out in BC, who ran for the PPC last time, used to say we're only 1 or 2 news cycles away from a majority victory. Once the truth gets exposed, when the truth comes to light about what happened during COVID and how we were manipulated and used, and the only people who are fighting for the people were the PPC, Maxime Bernier, and people like us who are out in the streets fighting against this. We will be exonerated through time. Maybe not right now, but it's starting to happen because it's bound to happen. The truth always comes to light.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, a lot of information that has been coming out, a lot of data has been coming out from different countries where it's showing how much of a crime this was. I mean, I think most of us knew right from the start that this was just being made up. The cold, the flu season just disappeared. The cold was cured and replaced. So I mean, a lot of us knew this was a manipulation. But it seems to me the Georgia Guidestone destruction of those were like the starting bell, the starting gun before a race, and all the countries just went in face first, like they all agreed to 500 million population maximum, and the needle was going to help them to reach their goal, their target. And if they don't, then by 2030, then they'll have like the what do you call it? The something games,
Hunger Games.
The Hunger Games. To have to eliminate the rest. And then I found the committee of
that's why they're pushing. That's why they're pushing the war in Ukraine to keep going. That's why they're pushing wars in the Middle East, because this is all part of their plan. And people don't understand that we already exist in a new world order. It's been around for quite some time, at least since the 60s, with the limits to growth and the Club of Rome and all that stuff. All you have to do is read some books, read Rule by Secrecy by Jim Marrs, read the Bilderberg Group by Daniel Estulin. These people are doing it right out in the open. They meet in every year in Davos. They meet and they openly talk about these strategies they're going to use to cull the population and to keep us serfs and under control. And they do it quite openly. And I don't understand how people are so in their little. I guess you can't blame everybody, because the way they keep us sequestered in our little labels, left versus right, and fascist versus communist, and all this stuff, and then they play off on it and manipulate us to fight each other instead of realize what's going on. You can understand it, but our job is to make people realize that we are beyond those paradigms now. We're facing an existential threat. It's a war, all right, a spiritual war, but it's also a physical war, and it's a war of the elite ruling class against the working class, and we have to unite as the working class to defeat this. We have the power. We can do it. It's been done before.
Mm-hmm. And it's funny, the government doesn't dissolve when more than half of the population doesn't even vote. They have absolutely no confidence. That should absolve the system and cause a reset, where we create a republic, or a constitutional republic, where we can set the limits for the federal, the provincial, and empower the people. Because I've noticed in all the different interviews I've done with whistleblowers is that every department, police, military, the Rangers, they only get promoted if they are willing to do something bad. So this way, the powers that be have kept promoting other narcissists so they can sustain and empower their criminality. And so hopefully we'll get in and be able to filter through these things and get rid of this narcissism that's embedded in the things that are supposed to protect us. And perhaps the PPC will give us the right to protect our own homes and our own families again.
Go ahead, Jeff.
I'm sorry, Jeff, you were saying something? Go ahead, brother.
No, I'm not sure why it
I was
switched.
going to say something. Yeah, I was going to say something there, Paul.
Okay.
I think so. No matter what happens tomorrow, next election, God willing, if they'll have me, I'm going to be running again, because I know, I canvassed for about, since the end of July. I think I'm going to keep canvassing. I'm going to keep canvassing. Maybe I'll go out once a week. I won't be as intense, but I'll keep doing it. I'll go to events. I'll, join certain groups so that I can get more involved, and just keep at it and keep speaking our ideas. The good thing about going door to door is then you could speak very openly about our ideas. If you go to certain meetings, like if you go to, for example, a Chamber of Commerce, you can just be there and just hang out. They get to know you, and that's very good too. But they won't learn about your ideas, because it can be a little bit gauche if you just start talking about the PPC ideas when they're trying to do their business. So it can be a little bit, it could be takes a lot more time. But when you go door to door, you can get the sign locations, you get their phone number, you get their address, and you find out whether they're a supporter or not. And that was a big part of what I'm going to be doing tomorrow. Is I have about 600 people that have said they're voting for me for sure. So now tomorrow, it's a matter of getting them out, making sure they get out and vote. So that's what we're doing all day tomorrow, is just calling people all day who are on that list saying, hey, have you voted yet? We were going to do it using the sequence sheets and do all that. But it's like, it's just so much more trouble and so much more effort. Like if we had thousands of identified voters, let's say we had 6,000 identified voters, then it would be worthwhile to use the sequence sheets and use the process that Elections Canada has. But the way it is right now, we have about 600. We're just going to make sure they get out and vote. Last election, I didn't have any identified voters because I wasn't keeping track. Now I'm keeping track, and I'm going to be keeping track, and I'm going to be keep building my list that I have right now, and just keep building it. And hopefully by the next election, maybe I'll have a few thousand identified voters.
Good job, Peter. And I do think that in between this election and the next election, we have to maintain our communication, keep it open with the public. We have to also start talking about electoral reform on the doorsteps. When I've been talking to people, they are sick and tired of the Senate not being elected. They're sick and tired of not having proportional representation, which Trudeau promised when he first ran. Remember, and a lot of people they did a poll, and 30% of the people voted for Justin Trudeau because he promised proportional representation, and then he screwed them over and said, "No, I'm not going. Now that I'm here and I can elect and I can put who I want in the Senate, I'm just throwing that under the bus." So we got to run on these. I think electoral reform is a big issue we could really take advantage of.
I agree, and he also promised that deficits pay for themselves. And I'm still looking for that. I'm still looking at the number one. It's going to happen anytime. I know it. Justin said it was going to pay for itself.
Balances budgets.
Awesome.
Yeah, electoral reform, I think, is a big one. I have a slightly different take on it. Like, I believe we need a elected Senate. I believe we need an elected Governor General who is our head of state. We need elected judges. We need a lot more elected positions. But the one thing I don't like about proportional representation, you create the party to become stronger, because then what ends up happening is you end up having a list, and that to me is reminiscent of, in communism you would have a list, and you would try to climb up that list in order that you wouldn't be cut off in your election. So that's the one thing that I do have maybe there's a way to work proportional representation, but for MPs, if all we're doing is fighting to climb up a list, there will be no motivation to go out and meet actual voters. The only motivation would be to climb that list within the party. So your only motivation would be to sort of impress the leader, get up that list. Yeah. And that I think that would be a problem. What do you think, RB? How would you solve that?
I understand that perspective, because there is, the way it is now, because you're supposed to represent your constituents, right? There's more of that. This will make you want to vote. This will make you want to have the constituents like what you're saying and doing. But that's kind of been thrown out the window nowadays with this. I mean, because like in our area, the conservative members never show up between elections. They only appear during elections, which is ironic, because that's what they talked about with Maxime Bernier, right? He only shows up at elections. Well, of course, everybody shows up at the election time. What are you talking about? And but I understand that part. But I look at proportional representation as this: if we had proportional representation, the PPC would have had some people in seats in this parliament, and at least 3 or 4 people would not have stood up and given a standing applause to an actual Nazi. Because the PPC people, we know our history, and we know who we were allied with during World War II, and it wasn't the Ukrainian Nazis. And I could not, when that happened, I slinked off to my corner, and I was ashamed to be a Canadian. I cannot believe how absolutely stupid these people were. All of them, all 338, every PC, every Liberal, every Conservative, every NDP, they all stood up and they applauded an actual Nazi. How can that happen? So anyway, that's my thought. If we had proportional representation, there would have been some PPC members in there. Maybe we had some kind of a break on the vaccine passports and all that stuff. Maybe the Freedom Convoy wouldn't have been necessary. But, who knows?
Just touching on the Freedom Convoy, if I may.
Go ahead.
I believe that it's the politicians that caused the major problem with the Freedom Convoy, because they didn't come out and talk to the truckers. And from there, the media were fully behind government, supporting government, writing all kinds of lies about how bad the convoy was, when it was peaceful and fun-loving, and it just amazing how distorted it was. And it was all caused because government people like Trudeau, the leader at the time of the Conservatives, would not come out and talk to the truckers. Just, again, disgusting.
Yeah.
I do have to say that Pierre Poilievre did come when he was running for leadership of the PPC of the Conservative Party. He did come out and have it and share and have it and had a few selfies taken with some Freedom Convoy folks, and he actually handed out some donuts and coffees and walked with James Topp for about half a block. So he fooled enough of the freedom movement who are conservative leaning to vote for him to become leader of the party, but then he later abandoned us. He abandoned the freedom movement completely because his pollsters first said it's okay now to support them because our base likes them. But once he became leader, he started listening to the other pollsters who are saying, and the liberal media hates you for doing that. They're calling you helping with they're saying that you helped with the insurrection and that all these people, now you're being associated with Nazi flags and all that stuff. And so he completely abandoned us. Warren Kinsella wrote an op-ed in the Globe and Mail saying that Pierre Poilievre was right to abandon the convoy movement. And he threw us under the bus. He hasn't said anything about Critch-Leach and Tamara. He has said nothing about what's going on in Coutts. He said nothing about about COVID accountability. He's completely, brushing that all under the frickin' rug, and he's not talking about any kind of like what I'm trying to accountability to have some kind of a commission. What about the vaccine? How many people are vaccine injured? I know so many. I know hundreds of people in my social media circles that have been injured by the vaccine, and they have no way of getting the message out there because they're completely being ghosted by the mainstream media. It's absolutely insane. It was, like you said, it was a crime against humanity, and there should be some accountability for it. And the Conservative Party is not talking about it. And all these people who support the Conservatives a lot of them have supported the freedom movement. We have a former PPC person who ran here in Regina last election, who ran for the PPC. She's abandoned us to throw her weight behind the Conservatives, and she's deluded herself into thinking that the Conservatives get in, they'll actually address these things. They won't. Yeah. They will not. They will throw it under the rug. And as far as the whole gender ideology thing, too, Maxine was proudly out there with Billboard Chris saying there's only two sexes. He took a stand. And so when you read the comments under these posts, they're saying, yeah, Maxine's just doing that because he doesn't have to worry about being elected. And the Conservatives have to play the long game, and they have to pander to the Liberals so they get elected. But once they get elected, they'll be good, honest, like, ugh. Come on now. Either you walk with your principles and your values, you show it, and you don't be a backstabbing little grimy guy pandering for votes. It drives me nuts how that happens. Go ahead, Peter. I know you want to say something.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. When you don't have principles, the problem is that eventually the public finds out. Yeah. And Kim Campbell famously said that you never talk about policy during an election campaign. And they were obliterated to 2 seats during that election because she tried to play both sides of every issue. Pierre Poilievre saying he's going to halt the deportations of asylum seekers, but he says he's also going to start the deportations. He votes for the gender transitioning of children, but then he says as opposed to it when he speaks to his base. It's starting to come out, and that was also part of my pitch when I was canvassing. I just showed that the Conservatives try to play both sides of every issue, and you can't do that. Eventually you get found out, you get exposed, and that's why you have to walk according to your principles. So I definitely agree with you, RB. When you walk according to your principles and you stand by them, people, even if they disagree with you, they will respect you. They'll see that you're willing to stand for something, and that you'll be able to find something that you can agree with them on. And that's what I tried to do when I was talking to people one-on-one. If they didn't like certain parts of my pitch, I would focus on parts that did appeal to them, or I tried to find something else that did appeal to them, and then I told them, hey, listen, you're not going to agree with everything. You're going to disagree even with your own mother and your own spouse on certain things. But the one thing we're not going to shower you with 3-word slogans and just tell you how much money we're going to spend. We're actually going to talk about ideas and principles and philosophies so that you know which direction we're going. And I think I was able to persuade some people, even who were not necessarily aligned with us, but I was able to find some things in our platform that they did like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, as we know, their words are disinformation, which is means unknowingly inaccurate
Well, I'll tell you something right now. The biggest purveyors of disinformation, misinformation, and outright lies throughout all my life has been come from two sources: one, government; two, the media.
Yeah.
Iraq
Yep.
War. I mean, I can go back to the Vietnam War. We can go back to
Yep.
we can go back to the 1898 Spanish-American War.
Right.
Hearst, the newspaper magnate Hearst, started a war basically against Cuba by through yellow journalism at the time, and he took an accident where a battleship got blown up and turned it into a cause du jour, and it started the advent of the American Empire. So they lie to us all the time. They play false flags. They manipulate us all the time. So when they start talking about, the last people I worry about spreading misinformation and disinformation is some rando on social media, because the government and the mainstream media have been expert at it for so long.
Well, I stand behind no amnesty. I don't think there should be amnesty. I know they will say, let's put it behind us, because that's what the people responsible always do. You know, the narcissists, they have no guilt. They don't care about the suffering. They have a quota, you know. As far as I'm concerned, they're doing something for someone else. I think all the parties have harmonized into each other, where they're not going to, no one in there, all the 338, no one is going to actually enhance our lives or enhance our freedoms. You know, they're all just going over a cliff like Thelma and Louise. They're just offering different cars to do it in. You know.
Well, remember before the last election, Jagmeet Singh, Aaron O'Toole, and Justin Trudeau, and the person and the Blanchette of the Bloc Québécois and the Green Party. Remember, they all assembled and they all said, "We're all in this together," and they all agreed with vaccine passports and all this stuff. The only people that weren't in that room saying we're all in this together, wearing masks and spouting the party line, was the PPC. So, that's something to our eternal credit, I'll have to say. And Maxime was right.
I really think you're going to get seats. I really believe. I think Peter's going to get a seat. Honestly,
you think so?
Well last time.
Oh gosh, Paul, you're very optimistic. Thank you for your optimism. I hope you're right. I mean, like I said, I'm not expecting it. I'm really I'm not expecting it. But if it happens, I'll have to figure it out quickly, and we'll see. I hope you come to the party tomorrow anyway, Paul. We're still having the party regardless of whether I win or lose.
Awesome.
We're gonna have food. I got the wine already bought. We got beer, so don't worry. We'll be good. You can come. You don't even have to bring your piano.
Oh. Well, when you get your seat, I do make good coffee. I make a great assistant.
Hey, and if you do win a seat and you're looking for a political advisor who can teach you, who can help guide you on how to speak to the political left, I'm your man, because they're my people.
Okay. All right.
With people.
Okay.
One of the comments,
Robert, I would like to see you get a seat too, Robert, because you've lived your whole life. You've seen this. You started in this life where people didn't lock their cars, they didn't lock their homes, and you saw it degrade to where it is today. And so have I. I've seen it too. We're almost the same age, so
you're a lot younger than me. However, the one comment that I wanted to make was to go back to Pierre Poilievre and something that really bothered me. In the early days of Pierre, I had some respect for him. But then Christine Anderson, very justifiably, downloaded on Justin Trudeau after he spoke in the German parliament. And she then visited Canada about a year or so later. When she visited, 3 MPs, conservative MPs, met with her and had a meal, discussed over a meal. Pierre Poilievre lied about that, and then he, in effect, I understand, forced the 3 MPs to lie about it. And If he lied then, where else is he lying? And where else and when is the next time going to be when he forces his fellow conservative MPs to lie? Really concerns me.
Yeah,
I remember that situation there, Robert, and Dean Allison was one of the MPs, and I know Dean, so I texted him. I said, Dean, I can't believe you denounced Christine Anderson. She's an excellent patriot, and she speaks truth, and she's quite reasonable. And he texted me back that, hey, that was the party. I never said anything about her. The other two that joined Christine for lunch, they completely sold her out, and they said, yeah, that she's a vile racist. But Dean Allison, he's like, no, I never said anything negative about her. The party issued the statement. He didn't say anything against the party. So I mean, he did have to toe the line. He did toe the line, but I don't know if that's to his credit or to his detriment. I don't know.
Hey, Leslie Lewis was one of the other two, and it boggled my mind to learn about that circumstance.
Hey, Paul, is it okay if I share the screen right now?
You gonna share this?
Yeah, I want to share this. Let's play it.
Finish this pandemic for good. So get vaccinated. If you know someone who hasn't, talk to them.
I got no sound.
For communities, for our economy.
Oh, you don't have any sound?
I got sound. I can hear it.
I'm very quiet.
You can share.
Okay.
You can share a screen if you like. You should be able to share a screen.
Present.
Let me just stop sharing.
Okay.
So you can share. All right, there you go.
I got to stop share again and now present it again. All right,
Okay.
Here we go. Here we go.
All right.
Is it sharing?
No.
Let's see if I press present.
I see it. I can add it to the stage.
Oh, there we are.
Here we go.
Come so far in the fight against COVID. It's time to finish this pandemic for good.
Volume.
Can you turn the volume up on your end, Paul?
Let's see. Nope,
No, that's too bad.
I cannot.
That's
This
there.
is what they all said. Take the vaccine.
Yeah, we're all in this together. Yeah. Get the shot.
Talk to them. For our kids, for our communities, for our economy. It's how we get forward together.
How the whole country was dividing families, dividing friends, dividing work cohorts. And we haven't recovered.
Oh, but there they are.
Yep, all of them. They were all together.
And of course, Blanchette speaks exclusively in French.
Mm-hmm.
We all agree, he says, that despite our ideological differences, getting the vaccine is the only thing that will save us from the pandemic. Vaccines save lives. They're safe and effective. They haven't been. They're only. It's just ridiculous. But anyway, so there you go. Thanks, guys, for letting me share that.
Well, they said, they saved lives. Well, the thing is, they can't prove they even work. Just because you don't get polio doesn't mean it worked. The polio vaccine worked. It just means you weren't going to get polio in the first place. And now you've got aluminum and all these other ingredients in your healthy body. So the vaccines to me tell me that God is, he's flawed. Babies are born flawed and they need a little help. So they cut the umbilical cord too early.
The whole thing is flawed. Yeah, the whole thing is flawed because right at the beginning of this whole germ theory versus terrain theory thing that happened in the 1899s with Pasteur versus Beauchamp. Beauchamp was right. Pasteur admitted Beauchamp was right. That terrain theory is king. Germ theory is a construct and it can't be proven. famously the 1918 Spanish flu. In 2014, the NIH did a study on the 1918-1919 Spanish flu. And they discovered through autopsies and through literature that it wasn't the virus that was killing the people. It was the secondary infections you get from a virus, which are bacterial pneumonia. Bacterial pneumonia killed the people. And they didn't have antibacterial, penicillin hadn't been invented yet. They didn't have the proper protocol. So they wrote this paper in 2014, and Tony Fauci was part of this NIH study. And they concluded that it was bacterial pneumonia that killed most of the people. The virus was just introduced the cause. Now, so he said, if there's going to be a next pandemic, we got this because we understand the protocols. We have the antibacterials. We know how to do the treatment. They knew about vitamin D. They said, remember in 1918, 1919, they'd roll patients out into the sunlight because they were short on vitamin D. Well, now we got vitamin D supplements. We could have saved all those people, but instead they killed them off with protocols that made them, that they came in sick and they intubated them right away and put them into comas and they killed them.
Yep.
It's an absolute travesty, and we know this. This has all been proven. And if we had a real Nuremberg 2.0, we could be putting these people like Teresa Tam and Sadiq Shahab here in Saskatchewan, and all these public health officials that were educated in their bureaucratic duties at the World Health Organization, at the Johns Hopkins Center for Health Security. They're all criminals, and they should all be put away behind bars forever.
Well, the health institutions in Canada have allowed poison into our food, so they're basically compromised. Then we have the GMO foods, was basically saying, God's food isn't really good enough. It needs a little help. So we'll genetically modify it so we can put profit in there, because reseeding every year for farmers is free, and we can't have free. And then we have the radium. They demonized radium, but they used to have furnaces that there's no pipes or anything, no exhaust. The radium would heat the house for free.
It's all about the pesos. It's all about the dollars. It's all about the shekels. Come on, folks.
Yeah, the PPC.
Hey, Jeffrey, you haven't said anything for a while. I want Jeffrey to wade in on this discussion.
Well, I've just been mostly taking it in. I was at a very interesting point in my life during the pandemic. I had just gone out of high school, graduated in 2019. I was ready to go to post-secondary. I'd applied in the winter, and I was ready for my fall term. Then obviously we were locked down. We were told to stay inside, that you would die if you went outside. Then we were told, but if vaccines come along, then it'll be okay. You won't transmit it. You won't contract it. So people were more than willing to take it. Fall rolls around. I have to do online school through Zoom, which was horrible. And not long after the vaccines were rolled out, they were totally rushed. Moderna, Pfizer, AstraZeneca, every single one of them were rushed. And people they just wanted normalcy. They just wanted their lives back. They were coerced. They were forced by the government to take these experimental vaccines. There's been awful side effects. Of course, everyone here knows myocarditis is one of the huge ones, with all the young athletes who would all of a sudden just keel over and die. Then, of course, other side effects too that we don't even know the half of, because we're not allowed to talk about it, because the government calls us conspiracy theorists for asking about it, for saying, hey, what are the long-term effects? I never took the vaccine, never took the booster. Everyone in my family did, because again, they wanted their lives back. They wanted to go outside.
Yeah.
And it was totally unconstitutional, uncharter-like. And I don't know. That's what really got the fire going in me. That's in 21 was when I found the PPC, and I thought, these guys, this party is legitimate. They're the only ones who are going against the mandates. Because at that time I was conservative, and I liked Ford at the time. And I thought, this guy's conservative. He's always harping on the liberals, but he's saying the same things they're saying. He's saying, get the jab, folks. We can return to normalcy, folks, if you get the jab. And I thought it was awful. And just like everyone here and all of our voters believe, the government shouldn't force you to make decisions about your body. We should be given the self-respect as autonomous human beings to take any risk, any vaccine, any decision we want without being coerced, without being forced.
Yeah, and if you're in Vancouver, they have vending machines for fentanyl and cocaine, and you could just anyone could just walk right up and just buy. But don't you dare eat raw milk or drink raw milk, or you're a criminal. So you can't have you can't have raw milk, but you can have fentanyl. That's where we are. So basically, we're ruled by criminals, and they're
Yeah.
really anti-Canadian. They're really not supporting good health, good freedom. They're not supporting or enhancing our lives, and never have.
And that's I
But
just want to quickly mention, because of that, we have an inroads into the old Birkenstock wearing, hippie, granola crunching lefty crowd. The moms that give a damn about their kids. They support a lot. So a lot of them support us in what we want to do, because they realize that we're the only party, we're the only people talking about how horrible our healthcare system has been manipulated, and how horrible the food industry has become, poisoning our children and stuff like that. Famously, one of our supporters last election, her name was Donna. We call it the warrior grandma. She was in her 70s, and she didn't let any of her kids or any of her grandkids get vaccinated, and they're all as healthy as they're all the healthiest people I've ever seen, and they all play sports, and they're none of them are obese or overweight, and they're farmers, and none of them have taken not even one, 0 vaccines their whole lives, and they don't have allergies to wheat, they don't have allergies to peanuts, they get cuts or bruises or something, they shake it off better than I've seen anybody else. And if they do get the flu, they get it, they're sick for 2 or 3 days, they get immunity, and they're over it. They all had measles and chickenpox and mumps and all that stuff, and then they got it. They developed immunity to it. They're safe for life. You remember when we were kids? I don't know. I think Robert would remember this. I don't know if Peter will, but I'm 62 years old. When we were kids, I got measles, I got mumps, and it was the greatest thing ever. You got measles, you got to stay home for school for a week and eat ice cream. That was great, man.
And drink ginger ale.
That's right. I mean, and so
I still remember the chicken pox parties.
Yes.
Remember where they would intentionally subject you to the virus so that you would get it as a kid, so that they could control it.
Yes.
How things have gone crazy. Yeah, how things have gone upside down. But listen, gentlemen, I have to get going.
Me
Love
too.
I wish you lots of luck, all of you. Good luck tomorrow. Paul, we'll see you at my place tomorrow, right?
I just first time I've heard about it. Did you say something about a piano?
No, I said come to my place tomorrow. We're having the after party tomorrow. It starts at 9. We're gonna have food. We're gonna have some drinks. I thought I told you. Now I'm telling you.
That's great.
You
That's
got no
great.
excuse now, Paul.
No.
Jim.
I look forward to it.
Well,
Yeah.
thanks, Paul.
God bless
Thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah.
Been a
Take
pleasure.
care.
Nice
God bless.
meeting you, Peter, and Godspeed.
Thank you so much. Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Thanks, Peter. I think he's going to get a seat. I
Well,
really do.
it would sure be a nice thing, because I think he's a very, very thoughtful man, a very intelligent man, and somebody who has an idea of how to get this done. I really like his strategy of reaching out to the community and keeping it going between elections. That's the biggest thing. We didn't do very good after the last election at keeping the momentum alive. The Saskatoon Electoral Association disbanded here, because everybody kind of was so like, once the mandates restrictions were lifted by the government, right? Everybody went back to sleep. They said, "Oh, we won." Well, we didn't win. It's just been a reprieve. You know what's coming next? Climate change lockdowns. You know what's coming next? Come on, they're not done with us yet. They got away with it. There's been no accountability. They got away with trampling on our charter of freedoms and rights. They got away with it. And until there's accountability, they'll do it again.
Carney considered the donations to Trucker an act of sedition.
That's right.
That's not sedition, but that's what he thinks it is.
And Polyev may have had that cup of coffee and kind of paid lip service to it, but he has not brought it. He's not brought up our cause. He's never spoken up for the vax injured. He's never spoken up for the Coates boys and the political prisoners that we have in this country. He did not speak up for us.
So how do you think the pharmaceutical industry gained so much power over everyone?
Pesos, man. Who fund
money?
Health 50% of Health Canada is funded by the pharmaceutical industry.
Well,
Justin Trudeau gave them $20 million to build a plant in Montreal. That thing should be burnt down the first day it's opened, and it would be a good thing. I'm telling you right now, I would support that.
Yeah, because they only address symptoms. They don't allow cures. And if someone comes up with a cure, they have an accident, suicide themselves. Hey,
don't be a conspiracy theorist, Paul.
Hey, that's right. Just like that girl, the whistleblower for the
Virginia Giuffre, just suicided herself because she was a pain in the side of the powers that ought not be, and that's why you should refer to them, Peter. Actually, not as the powers that be, but the powers that ought not be, because they ought not be in control of our lives.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. These are the bullies.
I also have to boogie pretty soon, but I want to hear what Jeffrey has to say about our wild conspiracy theories. What do you think? Should we be building a new Moderna plant in Montreal? And if the Conservative government gets in, will they actually rescind that, or do you think they'll just go along with it? What do you think?
Well, I don't think so. I think we should not, under any circumstance, build a Moderna plant anywhere in Canada. Like we were talking about earlier, they went right along with forcing these experimental vaccines on Canadians. They did it because a lot of Canadians were desperate. They wanted normalcy. And they said, sure, we don't care that they haven't been tested. We don't care that they've been rushed. Let's do it. So that company should have no place in Canada. Ideally, in an ideal world, they shouldn't be anywhere near us. And if the Conservatives get in, if they get a majority, even if they get a coalition, if they get any kind of power, I could see them doing that. Because like we said earlier, they were totally for lockdowns. They were totally for mandates, right? So when conservative voters say, no, they won't do that, Polyev's different. He cares about freedoms. He cares about bodily autonomy. He cares about whatever he's told to care about. He doesn't have any principles. If he's told, fast track this bill, he'll do it. If he's told, make sure this plant gets built, he'll do it. He won't even blink. So I think the Conservative government is totally not complicit, but totally aligned with the Liberals in all the things that we oppose and all the things that we fight.
I think they're complicit. I think they were complicit throughout it. The NDP, they're complicit. The Green Party was complicit. The Bloc Québécois were complicit. They were telling us we're all in this together. Remember? I showed the video.
100%. They are complicit. They've been compromised. They could have all gone to Jeffrey's Island and got Mossad videos on them. So, I mean, it's quite possible that they are under the threat of death.
Oh, hey, yeah, right. Paul, that reminds me. Remember when Doug Ford or Rob Ford, which one is alive still, the Doug one or the Rob one? I can't ever.
Dougie, the bad brother.
Can't ever decide between those two corrupt, evil human beings. Right? Why? How has this guy got any political power unless he's like mobbed up? And I mean mobbed up. I mean, he famously said that if you go against public health restrictions in one of his press conferences, remember, if we go against health, I might as well throw a rope over a bridge and hang myself. Does he mean that metaphorically, politically, or did he mean that literally? Or was he being threatened? Is his family being threatened? I want to know these things.
Yeah. No, I do think that it doesn't make any sense otherwise, because they're certainly not serving us. So they must be under threat. They must be bought off. But yeah, I think the Israel or the Rothschilds did it wisely. They got the judges, they got the movie stars, they got the musical artists. They've got their hands in everything. And the politicians, well, because of their narcissism and arrogance, they figured they wouldn't get caught on a private island. But then they probably were shown the videos and saying, well, you're going to do what we want, or everyone's going to know what you did.
That's why you need honest government in there. That's what the PPC
Yes.
is all about. We'll go in there, we'll clean house, and we got to really pound on this between elections, because if the Conservatives get in, which I predict, the Conservative majority, they're going to be done within years. I give them maybe a year to two before they start bleeding all their support, because they're going to be governing just like the Liberals, just like we're saying right now. They're not going to leave the Paris Accords, and they'll go along with all this nonsense. But I do have to boogie because I'm due on another podcast. Thanks, guys, for having me on. I put a link to my Rumble podcast in the private chat if you want to share that, Paul. My Rumble podcast is called Beyond the Pale. And it's
I will share it.
Yeah.
I will share it on the podcast live.
That's beautiful. So thank you.
No, thank you for both coming on, and all the other guests that came on to the pre-election, the day before the election roundtable, and it was good to have you both. Thank you both for coming on, and all the other guests too as well, and everyone at home. Thanks for watching. I hope we helped in some way to inform you, and if not now, then people will see what the Conservatives are if they do get majority. Hopefully they won't. Hopefully they'll be in a minority position, and the PPC will get some seats, and then we can actually get a voice in there, which is what I'm hoping for.
I love your optimism, Paul. Wouldn't that be great if they were in a minority and they had to rely on like 2 or 3 or 4 PPC seats to be able to govern, and we could hold their feet to the fire? Can you imagine that? Oh, that'd be great.
Be beautiful.
Yeah,
that's just what we need, and I really believe in it. I think Peter's going to get a seat. He did so well last time that I think, and I've been through his writing, and he's got signs everywhere. So I'm really hopeful with Peter.
Jason Levine out in Alberta is pretty strong, and Shay Craik in Saskatchewan is pretty strong in a rural area, in the Moose Jaw rural area. So there's a chance.
You've got a great podcast going too.
Yeah, thank you.
And you're a natural leader in the podcast. You are guiding this one even, which is fine with me. You're a natural leader, so I think you're perfect for the party for sure.
Well,
and I wish you the best. I wish you both the best tomorrow. And I want to see those numbers going double what you expect. And because this is in God's hand, it's a spiritual war, and I think God's gonna be involved at this point in our life. I think he's very participatory. So thank you all at home. This is the last episode before the election, and I may have to change the truth table to the misinformation table after tomorrow if Carney wins or cheats, wins minority election. Thank you all for coming, and have a great night.
God bless you.
Thank you for having me. God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. This is Paul Everton. As of the 28th, the subscription to the StreamYard will end, and this logo will be gone unless I can raise the funds to pay the subscription for another year. If not, it doesn't mean the truth table will be ending. It just means I'll have less hours. The quality of the video will deteriorate a bit, and I will have a StreamYard logo, which is fine. But if you would like to donate, I will put it in God's hands, because I really don't like asking for money, but I just don't have $400. So this is what where you can e-transfer if you want to. After the 28th, I'm not going to ask anymore. But if you want to e-transfer, it should be here. And thank you. Thank you for supporting the channel.